Hello everyone and welcome to Games, Comics and Crafts.
In this series of videos, I'll be looking at the Judge Dredd case files in order and picking out the most prominent and important stories, as well as noting some artists and writers that actually appear in these books. Okay, so we're back here with volume 14 of the complete case files. This is a biggie. This is an important one. So we start off with Tales of Dead Man. Now, interestingly enough, this kind of, unless you're paying attention, this is something you're going to miss because at the point where this came out, we had the Dead Man series, which was John Ridgway artwork, absolutely gorgeous artwork inside it, black and white. Told the story of this kind of weird guy who was wandering around the cursed earth. We've kind of seemingly with no memory of who he previously was. Written under a pseudonym as well, so we didn't get any idea that it was linked to Judge Dredd. And it turns out, as we go through, he is Dredd, and he encounters the Sisters of Death, and we get this little bit of intro here. Now, obviously, this has been reprinted. Tale of Dead Man here has been reprinted, but we don't get the black and white stuff in volume 14. I think that's a real shame because that is a significant chunk of what's going on here. And what's going on here is going back all the way through to Oz and Bloodline and all this other stuff as well. Kraken looks to be Dredd's replacement, and it actually turns out that Dredd decides to take the long walk. He goes into the Cursed Earth, and Kraken is there to replace him. I personally, first of all, we get this. First of all, we get a story here with Kraken and Dredd doing their like working as a team, and Dredd basically says, right, no, you're no good. You've overstated you kind of some of your violence a little bit there. There's too much judder in you, effectively. You would be a good judge, but this is just something a little bit wrong with you. And this goes on for a few issues. And it turns out at the end of this story, again, which goes on for issues, so this must be running in parallel with the Dead Man, and people didn't know what was going on with it. And then we get a little flashback here at the end of it where he's gone for the long walk, he comes back. So obviously so now we kind of catch up with the timeline. Kraken is given an idea to basically the kind of the orders that he's basically, yeah, you failed. So because you're Judder, you've got to turn in your badge. You are basically going to give yourself a lethal injection, kill yourself. They rush him to recyc, and it turns out, no, they're not. They're going to rename him as Dredd, and he's going to be on the streets as Dredd. Now, this is where the kind of necropolis countdown comes to. I would have loved this if they kind of they did this later on in the day, and they kind of had like, you know, 3 months, 6 months, whatever, of Dredd stories where it wasn't actually Dredd, it was Kraken, and we didn't know. And then it was like, oh, okay, then the Dead Man stuff kind of come in. So we still kind of we by the time we've read kind of Kraken being Dredd, the Dead Man's finished. So we knew that he'd replaced Dredd, but it would be really cool if they'd done that and go. Oh, but then, yeah, then you might have got a Clone Saga kind of thing where Ben Reilly Spider-Man is it really Spider-Man, and he's not, and then he is Spider-Man for a year, and anyway, so it might have annoyed people. Maybe they learned a lesson from that. Anyway, Kraken's being Dredd. They're keeping him away from all the other judges because they know damn well that everyone's going to be suspect about what's going on. Dear Annie is Countdown to Necropolis Part 1, which is basically this woman's being contacted by the sisters, and she's kind of they're using her as a conduit to come through. She's obsessed with Judge Death. Kraken eventually makes his way to the where that is and encounters the sisters, and they eventually come across a side judge, Kit. I want to say Apogee. Again, it's really difficult because I swear to God, because she's got a name on a badge. Um, it's difficult to think of something, but they always call her Kit. Anyway, they use her as a conduit to come through, and they're basically manipulating her. Um, Anson knows she's missing. There's a whole thing about Anson keeping Anson away from Dredd because she's going to recognise it's not Dredd. And yeah, so Necropolis takes up a bunch of this. So basically the main story is we see the return of Dark Judges. They're basically trying to take down the sisters. There's a lot of bad stuff going on. The judges are kind of possessed. The side judges are kind of overpowered. They're manipulated. They shoot their own guys. Anderson is effectively thought to be killed by running over by a tank as she confronts Kraken. And it turns out at the end of the day that basically Dark Judges are freed. They've been brought out of limbo. The entire city again is kind of like restructured to look like Dead World, sorry. Which again, there's quite a big jump of time between these two kind of stories. And Dredd is effectively the fifth Kraken, as it were, is the fifth Dark Judge, and he goes around with the other four Dark Judges executing citizens. I think that's really cool. It's really, really good. It's a nice little kind of addition to it. But yeah, so the entire city is basically waiting to be judged by Death and the other Dark Judges. And they're all committing suicide because they don't want to be killed by Death. And yeah, Mega City is bad. It even kind of mentions about like all the other mega cities kind of don't know what to do. They realise there's a lot this kind of dark pale of kind of cloud over the city, and they recognise what's going on, but they don't know what to do about it. So they kind of leave them to their own devices, and they kind of just monitor the situation. It's a very cool story, and kind of like a nice kind of again nice little bit of a world building story that kind of at least acknowledges what's going on outside of Mega City One itself. So as Dredd is heading back from the Cursed Earth, he encounters this crazy woman. And it turns out this crazy woman is Chief Judge Magruder, who went on a long walk a little bit earlier than Dredd. Um, they make their way into Mega City 1 through the wall. They understand what's going on there. Then we get a huge section with Cadet Judge Giant and various other kids taking Judge Mortis, which is pretty decent as well, or at least fighting against Judge Mortis. Eventually, they can kind of get a sidekick message, and it turns out Anson isn't dead. She's actually just been knocked through into the Undercity. And eventually they make their way and they meet up with Dredd and Magruder. They realise they have to kill Kit basically to stop the Necropolis. And they go and basically start destroying the Dark Judges. They kill Kit. They're whipped away. Dredd takes everyone back, and Magruder effectively becomes Chief Judge at the end of this. Everyone, all the other Dark Judges are killed or boinged or put into stasis. Anderson manages to kind of bring in their. I love it when they do these black and white things as well. It's really nice. Death jumps off a building, and his body is lost. And apparently, Anderson cannot sense where he is. Fire's killed and brought in, and eventually, they Dredd and Kraken have a rundown, and Kraken explains that he was kind of under power of Judge Death, and Dredd kills Kraken apparently. Anson's in a wheelchair because he's got spine injury from being pushed through the floor or into the Undercity, and manages to basically the Dark Judges are caught and they're trying to possess these stuff. Anson kind of uses her psychic abilities to kind of suck him in to her brain, and they're put into Boeing, and they're all sealed up away out of the way, but no sign of Judge Death. Death is still out there somewhere. So I think it's like I can't remember how many people. I don't know if it's 90% of the people die in Necropolis of Mega City 1. It's a huge amount of people. So again, this is why this is such a kind of like a game changing kind of event. Anson's kind of obviously there. Dredd's back, although we didn't really know he was missing until now. Kraken's dead. This is where Dredd's going to get his rejuve, unless I'm mistaken, because he looks like hell. But we've got some really nice covers at the end of this as well. But yeah, this was a really important story, and again, it takes up a huge amount of volume 14. But blimey now, it's really worth it. The next big story I can think of is the one with the crossover with Strontium Dog, which I thought was called Necropolis, but it's obviously not. But yeah, well worth a read. If you're picking up a decent your Dread stuff and you want a decent Dread story, this is really good. You obviously need a little bit. It's probably this in the volume 13. It'll probably be worth tying together. But yeah, this one is a very good compilation of stories. Even if say majority of it is Necropolis. It's just fascinating that this went off Necropolis went on for 20, 28, 29 weeks or whatever it is, 30 weeks. Yeah, almost the entire year of Necropolis. How cool would that be when it was coming out? It's really, really good. I think I caught a couple of issues of Necropolis, but I think it's really in its entirety. Um, but yeah, absolutely brilliant. So anyway, that's pretty much all I can say about Volume 14. We'll be back again soon with Volume 15. We're getting up to the stage now where we're going to start integrating some of the magazine stuff into it, which I personally think some of it is a bit off because they were trying to go for that kind of edgy, kind of heavy metal-y kind of thing, but it definitely improves later on. We're kind of almost going back to kind of the one-shot gag stories, rather than these massive spawn epics. But that soon sort of sorts itself out after a few issues. But we're a few issues off of that anyway. Yeah. So anyway, that's pretty much all I'll say about this one. So thanks very much, and hopefully I will see you on another video very, very soon. Bye.